The young and spoiled Alex had been causing trouble wherever he went, and his stay at his reserved and lonely grandmother's house was no different, marked by his selfish behaviour. However, Alex had one more surprise for the family. He invited the humble gardener to play the piano at a luxurious party. But what Alex did not expect was the unforgettable surprise he was about to witness. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. Alex, a 20-year-old young man, was about to experience a significant change in his life. His parents, worried about his rebellious and irresponsible behaviour, decided to send him to live with his grandmother Norma, a reclusive lady who lived in an imposing mansion on the outskirts of the city. The young man was the epitome of a spoiled and problematic youth. He spent his nights at endless parties, slept in late, and never fulfilled his responsibilities. His parents no longer knew what to do. His grades in college were plummeting, his companions were questionable, and his spending was exorbitant. Alex lived as if there were no tomorrow, without caring about the consequences of his actions. Reluctant and upset, Alex arrived at his grandmother's mansion on a sunny summer afternoon. The house was enormous, with well-kept gardens and an inviting pool. Norma received him with a warm hug, but Alex barely reciprocated the gesture. He was furious for being exiled to that place he considered old-fashioned and boring. Norma was a lady in her early 70s, elegant and kind. Despite her blindness, caused by a degenerative disease a few years earlier, she maintained a dignified posture and a sharp mind. Her routine was peaceful, divided between listening to her old records, piano sessions, and conversations with the few house employees. The first days of living together were tense. Alex continued his rebellious behaviour, coming home late, making noise, and being rude to the staff. Norma tried to talk to her grandson, explaining the importance of having responsibilities and respect for others, but the young man seemed unyielding. One day, the mansion's gardener suddenly resigned. Norma was worried, as the gardens were her pride and needed constant care. It was then that one of the employees mentioned Damien, a gentleman who used to pass by the mansion and had done some work for the neighbours. Damien was a simple man in his 70s with grey hair and a gentle smile. He dressed humbly, but was always clean and presentable. Despite his frail appearance, he was skilled and dedicated to his work. Norma, without meeting him personally, authorised his temporary hiring to care for the garden and perform small repairs on the property. On a tranquil afternoon, while the gardener Damien was trimming some rose bushes near the house, he heard a gentle melody coming from the large residence. Curious, he approached silently and saw through the glass the silhouette of Norma seated at the piano. Her fingers glided across the keys with grace and precision, producing music that deeply touched the old gardener's heart. Absorbed in the beauty of that moment, Damien did not notice the approach of Alex, who came from the pool area with a disdainful expression on his face. "What are you doing snooping around here, old man?" Alex asked arrogantly. Surprised, Damien turned to the young man and replied humbly, "Forgive me, young man. I was just admiring the beautiful music. You know, I used to play the piano when I was younger, but it's been a long time since I've had access to such a magnificent instrument." Alex rolled his eyes, clearly uninterested in the elderly man's explanation. "Whatever. Just don't go snooping around, understood?" he said, walking away afterward. Days passed and Norma's birthday was approaching. The elderly woman, though reluctant, agreed to have a small celebration organised at the mansion. Her grandson Alex, of course, saw this as an opportunity to cause some kind of trouble. On the day of the party, Damien was once again hired to help with the preparations and take care of the guests' car parking. He wore his best, though simple, outfit and was determined to do his job as best as he could. As the guests arrived and settled in the main hall, Alex came up with an idea to provoke his family and at the same time humiliate the old gardener. He approached Damien with a malicious smile. "Hey, old man," Alex called out. "We need a pianist for a special moment for my grandmother. Didn't you say you knew how to play?" Before Damien could respond, Alex pushed him towards the room, making him sit in front of the grand piano. The guests looked curiously at the unusual sight of an apparently simple man sitting at the instrument. Alex, with a sneer, announced loudly, "Attention, everyone! I have a special surprise for my dear grandmother. Our talented gardener is going to treat us to a musical performance." The young man expected Damien to make a fool of himself, maybe playing out-of-tune notes or simply freezing in front of the instrument. However, to everyone's surprise, especially Alex's, Damien's hands played the keys with mastery. A soft and captivating melody filled the air. The old gardener's fingers danced across the keyboard with impressive ease, as if they had never stopped playing. The guests, initially skeptical, soon found themselves enchanted by the music. Norma, sitting in her favourite armchair, tilted her head, focusing on the sounds reaching her ears. Her expression gradually shifted from curiosity to astonishment, and finally to deep emotion. As the music developed, tears began to stream down the elderly woman's face. Suddenly, she stood up trembling and exclaimed with a choked voice, "Damien! Is that you, Damien?" The hall fell silent except for the sound of the piano. All eyes turned to Norma, confused by her reaction. How could she know the gardener's name? And how could she recognise him solely by the sound of his music? Damien, upon hearing his name, abruptly stopped playing and turned around. His eyes widened upon seeing Norma, and despite the years that had passed, he recognised her instantly. "Norma," he whispered, his voice trembling with emotion. In that moment, time seemed to freeze. The story that unfolded before the astonished guests was one of a lost and rediscovered love. Damien and Norma had met in their youth when he was a young and talented music teacher and she, his most dedicated student. Norma came from a wealthy and traditional family, while Damien was of humble origin. Despite their social differences, the two young people fell hopelessly in love. Their connection went beyond piano lessons. They shared dreams, laughter, and a love for music that transcended the barriers imposed by society. However, the romance was discovered by Norma's parents, who were horrified at the idea of their daughter being involved with someone they considered inferior. They used all their influence to separate the couple, threatening to ruin Damien's career and even send him far away from the city. Before being forced to separate, Norma and Damien composed a piece of music together, a piece that symbolised their love and the promises they made to each other. It was this same melody that Damien played now, decades later, still held in his heart as a precious memory of that interrupted love. Years passed, and both followed different paths. Norma got married, had children and grandchildren, eventually becoming a widow. Damien also got married but never completely forgot his first and true love. Fate, however, seemed to have other plans for them. As the truth came to light, Alex watched the scene, jaw dropped. His attempt at provocation and humiliation had turned into something completely unexpected. Unintentionally, he had facilitated the reunion of two hearts that time and circumstances had separated. The guests, moved by the story, watched in silence as Norma and Damien approached each other, their hands touching hesitantly, as if they feared it was all just a dream. "I never forgot you," Damien whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "Nor did I," Norma replied, tears of joy streaming down her face. "Our song has always been in my heart." At that moment, Alex felt something change within himself. For the first time, he realised the impact his actions could have on the lives of others, both for good and for bad. In the days that followed, the mansion gained a new life. Damien began to visit the house regularly, no longer as a gardener, but as a special guest of Norma. The two of them enjoyed every moment together, sharing stories, laughing over old memories, and of course making music. Alex, for his part, began to gradually change his behaviour. Inspired by the story of his grandmother and Damien, he started to take more interest in the lives of others, listening to their stories. He began to help care for his grandmother, and even started taking piano lessons with Damien. The mansion, once silent and gloomy, was now filled with music and laughter. Norma and Damien enjoyed each day as if it were their last, making up for lost time with small gestures of affection and long conversations. They knew they had been blessed with a second chance and were determined not to waste it. For Alex, this experience was transformative. He learned that appearances can be deceiving, that hasty judgments can prevent us from meeting extraordinary people, and that true love can overcome even the most difficult circumstances. The most important lesson, however, was that our actions, even when motivated by negative intentions, can result in unexpectedly positive consequences. The universe works in mysterious ways, and sometimes our greatest mistakes can lead to the most beautiful successes. As he watched his grandmother and Damien playing the piano together, their hands intertwined over the keys, Alex smiled. He had arrived at that house as a rebellious and aimless young man, but was leaving as someone who was beginning to understand the true value of life, love, and second chances. The mansion, which once seemed like a prison to Alex, was now a home full of life and possibilities. And although he still had much to learn and grow, he knew he was on the right path. After all, as Norma and Damien's story had proven, it is never too late for a new beginning. If you enjoyed, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with a number from 1 to 5 to let us know how much you liked the story. Also, watch the video that is currently on your screen. See you soon.